Most Amazon sellers think Amazon reviews documents to check if the information looks correct. They believe that if dates match, numbers add up, and the invoice looks clean, Amazon should accept it. That assumption causes more rejections than almost anything else. Because Amazon does not review documents to confirm correctness. Amazon reviews documents to evaluate credibility. And those two things are not the same. Let me explain. Imagine a seller receives a notification asking for invoices to verify product authenticity. The seller opens their files, finds an invoice, checks that all the fields are filled in, and submits it. From the seller's perspective, everything looks fine. The supplier name is there. The address is there. The products are listed. The totals match. But Amazon rejects it. The seller is confused. They ask themselves, what's wrong with this invoice? They resend it. They re-upload it. Sometimes they even get a new invoice with the same structure. And the result is the same. Rejected. This happens because sellers misunderstand what Amazon is validating. Amazon is not validating whether the document is internally consistent. They are validating whether the document fits into a believable supply chain. This is where most people get stuck. When sellers look at an invoice, they see a document. When Amazon looks at an invoice, they see a story. And Amazon asks one simple question. Does this story make sense in the real world, not on paper? In reality, here's how sellers usually approach this. They focus on fixing surface issues. They adjust formatting. They change wording. They clean up descriptions. They assume the problem is technical. But in most rejected cases, the problem is contextual. Amazon checks whether the supplier shown on the invoice reasonably belongs in the supply chain for that product. They check whether the quantities make sense for that supplier. They check whether the timeline aligns with inventory movement. They check whether the relationship between buyer and supplier looks plausible. If any part of that picture feels off, the document loses credibility. And once credibility is lost, formatting no longer matters. This is why some sellers say, "My invoice is real. Why doesn't Amazon accept it?" Because real does not automatically mean credible. A real invoice can still represent a supply chain Amazon does not trust. Now let's talk about a very common mistake. Many sellers believe that if a supplier is legitimate, Amazon must accept the invoice. That's not how it works. Amazon does not evaluate whether a supplier exists. They evaluate whether that supplier makes sense for that product, in that quantity, for that seller. Those are three different checks. For example, a supplier may be perfectly real. They may even sell products legally. But if they are not known to distribute that brand, Amazon sees a gap. That gap becomes risk. Another common mistake is assuming that more documents increase credibility. They don't. If the core document doesn't align with Amazon's expectations, adding more paperwork only adds noise. Amazon prefers one credible document over 5 confusing ones. Now here's the shift sellers need to make. Instead of asking, "Is my invoice correct?" they need to ask, "Is my supply chain believable to Amazon?" That changes everything. Because once you think this way, you stop trying to fix documents in isolation. You start evaluating the entire context. You ask, does this supplier logically sell this product? Does the volume match normal distribution behavior? Do the dates align with how inventory would realistically move? Does the invoice look like a system-generated business document or a manually created file? Amazon notices these things, and they notice them fast. This is also why some sellers succeed with very simple invoices, while others fail with complex ones. Simplicity is not the issue. Believability is. Now let's talk about what actually works. When Amazon reviews documents, they want to see consistency across 3 layers. First, supplier credibility. Not just existence, but relevance. Second, transactional logic. The purchase should look like a normal business transaction, not a one-off created for verification. Third, risk containment. If Amazon approves this listing, does it increase the chance of future problems? If the answer to that last question is unclear, the appeal fails. This is also why rewriting appeals doesn't help when the document itself doesn't align. Appeals explain. Documents demonstrate. And Amazon trusts what can be demonstrated, not what is explained. Here's the key takeaway most sellers miss. Amazon is not trying to catch you lying. They are trying to avoid uncertainty. If your documents remove uncertainty, approval becomes possible. If they introduce uncertainty, rejection is guaranteed. So the next time Amazon asks for documentation, don't focus on how the document looks. Focus on how the entire supply chain appears through Amazon's eyes. Once you start thinking in terms of credibility instead of correctness, your results change. Not because Amazon changed their rules, but because you finally aligned with how Amazon actually evaluates risk.